Hi, my name is William Kerrigan. Today is February 23rd, 2023, and we're in our strawberry patch right now. Today we're going to talk about our strawberries and what's going on with them. These are Sweet Sensation. This is one of the two varieties that we're growing here this season. And we haven't really done a lot to these strawberries since November, right? They pretty much just sat dormant, but now they're starting to come out of dormancy. They're putting on some new growth and they're going into the reproductive phase. They're going to start making flowers and making fruits. But there's a couple things we had to do to them to kind of get them cleaned up. In the winter, we had a really cold frost that got down to 8 degrees, and our Sweet Sensation did take a little bit of damage, a little bit of cold damage here, some frozen leaves. So we're going to have to remove those and dispose of them because those could transmit diseases called botrytis. There's spores on these dead leaves, and then if the spores blow onto the flowers, then the flowers will have botrytis. And botrytis is gray mold. The gray mold that you see on strawberries in supermarkets, that's what it is. So removing of these dead leaves now will prevent the botrytis from getting on the flowers, which will then prevent them from getting on the fruits. So that's one step that we're going to do. Another step that we're doing right now is removing any weeds. There's no weeds in this row, but in some of the rows we do have a little bit of weed issue with some mallow and geranium and chickweed and things. So we're just going in and hand pulling those weeds. It's a laborious process, but it's something that has to be done because those weeds are going to compete with the strawberries. It's been exceptionally warm this past couple weeks in February. It's like 70 degrees now. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, and a lot of our strawberries are blooming. See here, there's a little strawberry flower. So this is a bit of a predicament for us. The strawberries have been tricked. They think it's earlier in the spring when really it's still February. And if we were to not do anything, it's likely that we would have another frost that would kill this strawberry flower and we wouldn't let it fruit. So we're not sure if we're going to protect them, the flowers or not, or if we're gonna decide to let them die and try to let them fruit later into the spring. But say if it does continue to be warm all the way until April, then yeah, we could be picking strawberries in 1 month. 1 month from today, we could be picking strawberries. So that would be really cool if we were picking strawberries, you know, in March. It's February and these strawberries are starting to bloom, which is not the best thing. You know, we would like if they bloomed a little later, but they've been tricked. They think it's earlier in the spring. So to protect these flowers, right, because if we left them unprotected, the frost would totally kill them. It would kill the flower. So to protect the flowers, we had to keep them warm. And to keep them warm, we use kind of an interesting process. We actually freeze water on them to keep them warm. It doesn't make sense. It sounds counterintuitive to freeze the strawberry to keep it from freezing. But what happens is the process of freezing water, the phase change from liquid to solid, actually releases some heat. And if you keep constantly freezing water on it all night and you keep the flower wet and there's constantly water freezing on it, it'll constantly keep releasing heat and it'll keep that strawberry right at 32, just barely at 32. The strawberry flower won't take damage at 32. It can survive 32, but if it gets below that, if it gets to 30 degrees or 29 or 28, it's toast. But if you keep it right at 32, there's a little bit of sugars inside the flower that prevent it from freezing. So we actually spray water on this whole field with big sprinklers, and we keep the plants wet all night if it gets really cold, and we'll protect the flowers. So that's how we protect them. So this variety here we have is Chandler. We're growing two varieties this year, Sweet Sensation and Chandler. But anyway, one problem that I've noticed on our Chandler more than Sweet Sensation is a pest called two-spotted spider mite. It's on the Chandler more so than the Sweet Sensation, but there's some here on this leaf. If you look in between the veins, you know, kind of right in between this vein, I can see a few. It's called a two-spotted spider mite. It's an arachnid. They have 8 legs and they have 2 black spots on each side of their body. But what these do is they basically suck the nutrients out of the plant. And they can also vector certain diseases. They can transmit viruses and other diseases, things like that. So really, these are bad. There's not a ton of them right now, and the plants still look really healthy. But we definitely want to take care of this before it gets too out of control. So we're gonna have to deal with this, but that's just one of the problems with strawberries. So right now our strawberry plants are blooming. They're just now starting to bloom, and here's a couple flowers. These are the flowers of Chandler. Strawberries are pollinated in a couple of ways. They're pollinated by wind. They can be, you know, wind can move pollen from one flower to the next, or they can be self-pollinated, and that in this flower right here, you know, the male parts can drop pollen onto the female parts, and they can be pollinated that way. And then the third way they can be pollinated is by insects. You know, like most people think of a honeybee taking pollen from one flower to the next, and that's how they're pollinated. They're mainly pollinated by wind and self-pollinated, but that's not enough. If we didn't have any insect pollinators, then they wouldn't completely fill out. The fruits would be misshapen, and they would be irregular and not consistent, and you wouldn't have as good yield. So insect pollinators are very important in strawberries. Without them, we wouldn't have big juicy strawberries. Right, so here on this plant, there's a weed. If you have a good eye, you can spot it. It's this one right here with the different shaped leaf. So strawberries have a trifoliate leaf. You know, this is one leaf, and then they have 3 leaflets, trifoliate, you know, tri meaning 3. This here is a type of mallow. Mallow is a pretty common weed that we have problems with. The soil fumigant doesn't really control it as well as we would like, so we had to come and put these weeds out. Look at that big taproot. This will compete for water and nutrients, and could also possibly be a host for insect pests. So it's best to remove these weeds from the strawberries. So we're gonna go in and have to hand pull out all these weeds. This is mallow, this is one of them, but there are also other weeds in here. Chickweed and geranium are common weeds. So get rid of these. Oh, here's another one. Look, this is clover. You can even see that. Boom, get out of there, clover, gone. All right, so this is what our strawberry row should look like. The plants have no dead leaves, nice green healthy leaves. There's no weeds. These look perfect. So this row right here is set up and ready to flower.